116 days of absolute agonizing silence. That is how long Nancy Guthrie has been missing from her home in the quiet outskirts of Tucson, Arizona. For nearly 4 months, the desert heat has baked the landscape, while her family has lived in a suspended state of grief, waiting for a single shred of actionable truth. But this week, the heavy silence surrounding this investigation was completely shattered. A highly decorated, retired FBI special agent went on the record with an assessment so incredibly dark it alters every single assumption the public has made about this case. His words were not wrapped in the typical diplomatic language of official police briefs. They were sharp, calculated, and deeply disturbing. He stated with absolute professional certainty that this individual is obsessed with torturing this family. Let those words hang in the air for a moment. He did not say the perpetrator was obsessed with hiding Nancy or obsessed with escaping justice. He said they are obsessed with inflicting psychological torture on the people she left behind. This means every time Savannah Guthrie stood before a national television audience weeping for her mother, a pair of eyes was watching her. Every single press conference, every desperate social media post, and every public plea was being consumed by the very person who caused this nightmare. The offender was not running. They were spectating. But as chilling as that behavioral profile is, it is not the most significant revelation this veteran agent brought to light. The most critical claim he made explains a bizarre, unprecedented maneuver currently happening between the local authorities and the federal government. It is a procedural shift that almost never occurs at this stage of an active kidnapping investigation. And once you understand the tactical reason behind this sudden change, the chaotic events of the last 4 months begin to align into a terrifyingly clear picture. If you have been following this heart-wrenching case, stop what you're doing and hit the subscribe button right now. We cover every single development, every breaking update, and every hidden clue in the Nancy Guthrie investigation daily. Make sure to turn on the notification bell so you do not miss the moment the truth finally comes to light. Before this video concludes, I'm going to reveal how this psychological profile directly connects to why 2 key family members have suddenly gone completely silent. You will see why their sudden retreat from the public eye is not a sign of surrender, but a highly calculated federal trap. The agent whose analysis we are dissecting was cited this week by the International Business Times, offering a level of insight that local police have desperately tried to keep under wraps. To understand the true weight of his claims, we must examine them step by step, starting with the bizarre behavior of Nancy's immediate family. During the agonizing first weeks after Nancy vanished into the Arizona night, Annie and Tommaso were highly visible figures. They were the public face of the search, coordinating community efforts, giving emotional interviews, and standing shoulder to shoulder with Savannah Guthrie in front of national news cameras. Then, without warning, they completely vanished from the media landscape. No more statements, no more interviews, and no more social media updates. To the casual observer, this sudden disappearance looked like deep emotional exhaustion. People assumed they had simply run out of strength to fight. But a seasoned criminal investigative expert asked about this sudden media blackout this week gave an answer that mainstream news outlets have completely ignored. It is not grief, it is not fatigue, and it is certainly not because they have run out of things to say. In a high-profile federal kidnapping investigation, when key family members suddenly go completely dark, it almost always points to a highly strategic decision by the lead investigators. The FBI has likely transitioned them from suspects into active, protected sources. This distinction is absolutely critical to understand. When a family member becomes a designated federal source, they are immediately ordered to cease all public communications. This is not a punishment, nor does it imply they have committed a crime. Instead, it means they have become privy to highly sensitive, active intelligence that must be shielded from the public at all costs. If that information were to leak onto the internet or into a news broadcast, the perpetrator would immediately know the police are closing in, allowing them to destroy evidence or flee. So, the family willingly retreats into the shadows, letting the public believe they are simply grieving, while in reality they are helping the FBI construct a tight physical and digital dragnet. Now, think about Tommaso Chion's incredibly unique position in this entire investigation from the very beginning. He was the last known person to see Nancy alive on that fateful night of January 31st. Because of this, his detailed account of that evening is the absolute anchor of the entire timeline. Every single piece of digital data, every cell phone ping, and every tire track found near the property is measured directly against what Tommaso said he witnessed. If the FBI is currently utilizing Tommaso as a critical confidential source, it means his timeline is not only holding up under immense federal scrutiny, but it is also actively guiding the direction of the hunt. And that leads us directly to the unprecedented physical maneuvers happening on the ground in Tucson right now. As of this week, the FBI's Elite Forensic Division and the Pima County Sheriff's Office have launched a joint, highly coordinated review of the DNA evidence. To the untrained eye, this might look like routine administrative teamwork, but in the world of federal law enforcement, it is anything but standard. Typically, physical evidence in a major kidnapping case travels along a singular, highly protected chain of custody. Either the local sheriff's department retains control of the physical exhibits, or the federal government officially steps in and assumes total jurisdiction. Having two separate, independent forensic laboratories concurrently analyzing the exact same physical DNA samples is a massive departure from protocol. It is incredibly expensive, logistically difficult, and highly unusual. When both local and federal agencies are running parallel forensic tests on the exact same material, it points to only two possible scenarios. Either they have uncovered a biological sample so incredibly complex and contaminated that they require two independent scientific opinions to make sense of it, or one agency has already identified a match and desperately needs the other agency to confirm it through an independent, legally bulletproof process. This double testing is not a scientific necessity. It is a legal shield. In a high-profile criminal trial, the defense team will attack the physical evidence with everything they have, trying to find a single crack in the chain of custody. By having both the Pima County Sheriff and the FBI independently test, log, and verify the DNA, the prosecution is building an unimpeachable wall of scientific evidence. They are ensuring that when this case finally lands in front of a jury, there is absolutely zero room for the defense to claim the samples were mishandled or contaminated. You only build this level of extreme legal redundancy when you are preparing to execute a high-profile arrest. This is the highly charged context in which the former FBI agent's third and most terrifying claim lands. Please stay with me, because this is the exact piece of the puzzle that the mainstream media has completely failed to comprehend. Let us look closely at the word the agent chose to describe the perpetrator. Obsessed. In the cold, analytical world of behavioral profiling, obsession is not a passive emotion. It is an active, highly dangerous behavioral loop. An obsessed offender does not simply commit a crime and slip away into the night to live a normal life. They are psychologically compelled to stay connected to the aftermath of their actions. They crave the chaos they have created. They monitor the police scanner, they hang around the edges of the investigation, and they watch the family's public agony with a sense of deep, twisted satisfaction. Every tear shed by Savannah Guthrie on national television was a direct reward for this individual's actions. But this intense behavioral obsession also acts as a double-edged sword for the offender, because it forces them to make mistakes. An obsessed criminal cannot stop at just one move. They are psychologically driven to intervene in the investigation itself. And, according to the former FBI investigator, that is exactly what happened in the case of Nancy Guthrie. Let us talk about the mysterious porch camera footage that has baffled the public for months. Early in the search, a brief clip emerged showing a shadowy, indistinguishable figure moving near the perimeter of the property on the night Nancy disappeared. For months, digital forensic experts have been dissecting every pixel of that video. But the core question has never been answered. Was this mysterious figure actually a real, independent intruder acting on their own, or were they intentionally placed there? The evidence pointing toward a deliberate setup is far stronger than any official spokesperson has cared to admit. Consider the precise timing of the appearance, the highly specific angle of the camera, and the deeply unsettling fact that this individual was not captured on a single other security feed in the entire surrounding area. They did not trigger neighbors' driveway sensors, they did not walk past street cameras, and they left no physical footprint entering or exiting the neighborhood. They appeared only in the direct line of sight of that one specific lens. If this figure was indeed placed there, it means the master puppeteer behind Nancy's disappearance possessed incredibly detailed knowledge of the property. They knew exactly where the camera was, what its blind spots were, and how the footage would look to detectives. This is not the kind of information a random predator or a passing stranger could ever possess. This is a highly specialized, intimate knowledge of someone who has had direct, repeated access to the family's daily life and physical layout. This realization brings investigators face to face with a terrifying paradox. If the FBI has reason to believe this porch figure was a calculated plant, then two deeply disturbing things are simultaneously true. First, the individual captured in that brief video may have absolutely no direct involvement in Nancy's abduction. They may simply be an unsuspecting pawn, deliberately guided into the camera's view to act as a physical distraction. Second, the person who engineered this optical illusion possessed enough intimate, inside knowledge to construct a highly credible, deeply misleading trail for the police to follow. This is not an external threat. This is an internal threat. And this brings us directly to the most explosive, high-stakes claim the retired FBI agent made this week. He flatly stated that the person responsible did not just abduct Nancy. He attempted a highly coordinated frame-up. In a federal kidnapping investigation, a frame-up is a complex, high-risk maneuver designed to redirect the entire weight of the law toward an innocent victim. It involves the deliberate planting of physical evidence or the careful fabrication of a narrative to make someone else look guilty. And according to the former agent, this elaborate staging is exactly what happened in the Tucson desert. Think about the psychological mechanics of a frame-up. You do not attempt to frame a complete stranger, because the police would immediately see through the lack of connection. You frame someone whose physical proximity to the victim already makes them a highly plausible suspect. Someone whose relationship with Nancy is close enough that a jury would easily believe they had a motive to hurt her. The frame-up was designed from the very beginning to destroy someone within Nancy's immediate orbit. This is the real reason why the FBI and the Pima County Sheriff are currently huddled over the DNA evidence. It is not a routine double check. They are doing it because when a criminal attempts to frame someone, they often contaminate the physical evidence on purpose, planting hair, skin cells, or personal items to mislead the forensic team. In a case where the crime scene itself has been highly manipulated, a single stream of laboratory analysis is a massive liability. You need two completely independent agencies, operating in separate labs to run parallel tests on every single fiber, droplet, and surface. You need two separate, unassailable chains of custody that can withstand the most aggressive cross-examination in court. Because the moment this suspect is arrested, their defense team will loudly claim that the physical evidence was planted to set them up. And the FBI is silently, methodically ensuring that this defense argument is completely dead on arrival. If this level of investigative detail is new to you, this is exactly what we do here every single day. We dissect the deep, hidden layers of the nation's most complex cases, bringing you the cold truth before anyone else. Hit that subscribe button right now and turn on all notifications so you are in the room when the handcuffs finally click shut. Now, let us connect all three of these massive puzzle pieces together. Annie and Tommaso did not go silent because they gave up. They went silent because they are active federal sources protecting a highly sensitive trap. The FBI and Pima County are running parallel forensic tracks because they know the evidence was intentionally staged, and they are building a case that cannot be broken. And a highly respected former FBI agent is now openly declaring what the evidence has been whispering for weeks. The person responsible is someone close to this family. Let the horror of that reality sink in. Savannah Guthrie is one of the most recognizable faces in American media, anchoring The Today Show on a daily basis. Her mother's disappearance has been a dominant national news story since the cold days of February. The entire family has been highly visible, constantly monitored, and deeply studied by the public for more than 4 months. An obsessed offender watching this tragic story unfold did not need direct physical access to keep tabs on them. But the failed frame-up tells us something the obsession alone could never reveal. It tells us that the perpetrator had a highly specific target in mind for the blame. This was not a random act of violence, nor was it a generic attempt to escape detection. It was a calculated, personal strike against a specific individual in Nancy's life, designed to ruin them forever. The FBI knows exactly who that intended target was, which means they know exactly what kind of person possessed the unique physical access, the deep personal motive, and the cold-blooded patience to orchestrate such a monstrous plan. Savannah Guthrie, who stated publicly this week that she is willing to spend whatever it takes to find her mother, is not backing down. The federal dragnet is quietly tightening around the suspect, and the question is no longer if an arrest will be made. The question is simply when the hammer will fall. And there is one highly specific piece of this puzzle that connects directly to the failed frame-up attempt, reaching all the way back to an incredibly strange occurrence in the first 72 hours after Nancy vanished. That critical, shocking event is detailed in the video on your screen right now. Click it and let us analyze the final pieces of this mystery together.